Hi, we're here to talk about balanced literacy and the way that it's seen in classrooms, and specifically how can we remediate those students that are struggling within the balanced literacy program. So we want to start with the question of what skills and strategies do beginning learners need to be successful. In the balanced literacy program, you're going to see a lot of guided reading, modeling by teachers, and guided reading and guided writing to working to where the students can be independent. There are components for each grade level of readers, and we want to be specific that we are gearing our activities and our expectations for each reader. So we're going to talk about the resource binder that is given for remediation in Chesapeake Public Schools. It is an aid for remediation, and it's a tool that assists teachers and teaching assistants. It's in 3 parts: the emergent reader, the beginning reader, and the transitional reader. Activities in the binder are all necessary materials, have all necessary materials that the teacher or teaching assistant would need in order to help with the lessons. So K2 readers. In the resource binder, some helpful resources to aid in the remediation would be alphabet resources, picture cards, nursery rhyme resources, those stories that the children know well and they can memorize to help build the fluency, adult resources, and PALS quick checks. So if we're looking at the emergent reader, pre-reader, what does he or she look like? Like we talked about, we need to know those expectations for them. Characteristics, they're going to be scribbling their letters, and they lack letter-sound correspondence and word of concept. You want to focus on building those letter sounds and alphabet knowledge, sorting beginning picture sounds, and encouraging finger pointing, memory of reading of rhymes, so we can work on poems and or nursery rhymes. Some activities that you could do with the emergent reader would be to read to the student. Fluency builds, and the student builds their ability to be fluent in reading and understanding finger pointing, the way that print is read by modeling. So throughout guided reading, you should always be reading to that student. Modeled writing, let them see how you are writing and what you expect of them, and you're going to encourage pretend reading and writing. At this point, they can look at a picture and figure out the meaning of the story based on the visual cues, and that's totally acceptable. And we want to hear rhyming sounds. Some tasks that you could give to them would be sorting letter sounds, their uppercase and lowercase letters. We could look at beginning sound matching ball. You have a picture of a ball, and what pictures underneath could go with the picture of the ball that would have the same beginning sound as B. Pictures that rhyme: box, fox, mouse, house, goat, boat. They need to hear those sounds. The beginning reader, they're going to be at levels usually A through C in the balanced literacy program. In the beginning reader, we're moving on from that emerging stage, and we're going to be able to correctly spell. The child will be able to correctly spell the initial and final consonant sounds. They're finger pointing to their words. They're reading slowly in a word-by-word manner, but they are seeing the sight words that they should know in their memory. Not really sounding out words at this point, but mainly all memorization. Activities that you can do with the beginning reader. We can, again, read to students, model, read with them, partner read, read to them, encourage invented spelling. So if you're working on a model reader, or if they're working on a independent reading, encourage that inventive spelling. If they don't know how to spell pony, that's fine. Let's hear the sounds that you would hear in pony. P, O, pon, n, e. P-O-N-E, we're perfectly fine with that because they're hearing those sounds. They'll be hearing the beginning sound and the end sound, and at this point it'd be very, very important that they're starting to listen to their vowel sounds as well. Collect reading passages which are read regularly to promote fluency. So a lot of teachers are going to have book bins or book bags that the students collect books in that they are familiar with. So if they don't get frustrated, they're at their independent level because they have the sight words that they know and they practice with their teacher. We can sort pictures by vowel patterns: a, e, I, you can examine consonant blends at this time, like an L blend, a SL, a CL, an R blend, a TR. Looking at those sounds by chunking the words so that they're able to chunk a blend in a vowel pattern to help them break down a word. And again, we're collecting that word bank in their head with their sight words. Some ideas, like we said, working on blend. So the blah, what kind of words would start with a blah? Block, blue, words that they would know and they can hear and see that consonant blends in there. Another idea would be a read in color. So if they have a picture that said the hat is blue, at this point the is and blue should be their known sight words. The hat part, they can either look at the picture and see that it's a hat, or they can sound it out with the sounds that they know. They know their consonants are beginning and ending, huh, and then they know their a and t, hat. The hat is blue. They're able to read that and show that show you that they know it by coloring the hat blue. At this point, we want to start looking at the Dolch sight words, getting the children very familiar with these words. These are high-frequency words that they're going to see for the rest of their life in all of their reading. You can work on sight words with them. You could play bingo with them. Lots of different remediation strategies, concentration, different games to help them memorize these words. And again, the Dolch words and the sight words are not going to be words that they're going to need to sit and sound out. They should come immediately. These are high-frequency memorization words. Now we're moving on to the higher readers, maybe third grade. We're looking at level D, second grade, third grade. Transitional intermediate readers, they have mastered their high-frequency words, so they have a strong bank in their head of memorized words. They read with good fluency and expression, and they can now respond critically to questions that you ask of the story that they read or the passage that they read. They are starting to read silently or more whispering to themselves or reading in their head. They explore different genres of reading based on their interest level, and they practice literacy analysis of text. Like I said, they are able to find, and we'll talk about that here shortly, but they'll be able to find their story elements and have conversations about them. You want to still focus on word study and words that relate to their reading and writing that would be appropriate for them. And at this point, we can examine prefixes and suffixes to even broaden their comprehension and breakdown of new words. And their fluency of reading is paired with comprehension. Again, at this stage, we're moving more into comprehending and digesting what we're reading and having a conversation and being able to analyze it more than just knowing the words. So in this stage, a lot of different things that you as the teacher or you as the small group leader can do. One thing would be paired reading. You could do it with students or you could do it with you as the teacher. It's always good for other people to hear teachers and their friends read aloud. They practice their fluency with this paired reading, and the idea is that they are going to use a familiar text. A paired reading is not going to be used with a text that is at their frustration level, but instead at their independence level. That way they feel confident and they're able to practice that fluency on the words that they already know. Silent reading. Students can improve their fluency by silently reading the text. At this point, if you're in a small group, I encourage teachers to teach their students how to whisper read so that you're still able to see and hear if the students are saying the words right, if they're actually doing the task, so they can whisper to themselves and kind of even get in their own mindset when they're reading. Reciprocal reading. Students make predictions when they're reading. So this is a great thing to do in a small group, and this could be with a new text. So if you're giving a new text that's on the reading level for this student, you've got their interest in the new book, you've talked about it, let's maybe talk about the pizza. It's about a pizza. What do you like about pizzas? What do you like on your pizza? How do you make a pizza? You pique an interest in the reader. You start reading, and they put all the crust and the mushrooms and the sauce and the cheese and the mushrooms, and then they put it in the oven, and you show them the next picture, and there's smoke coming out. There are no words, there's smoke coming out. And you have them close that book. And the reciprocal reading idea is to pique their interest again in what's going to happen next. And at this point, you can say, ask around and see, what do you predict is going to happen next? What do you think will happen with that pizza? We saw smoke. What do you think is going to happen? If one of the students says they're going to, bring the pizza to the circus where they were, you can say, okay, red flag, that student's not following along. They don't know what's going on. But if a student says, well, there's smoke, and I bet it's burning in the oven, then you can say, okay, we're right on track here. What do you predict is going to happen next? Maybe it could be they had to eat the burnt pizza, they threw it out, they had to call the pizza place, they had to make a whole new dinner, and start having the students really think critically about the story that they're reading. Even if it could be a very, 5-page book, you can still do this reciprocal reading at this age group. At this stage, excuse me. So after reading, you're going to start wanting to analyze the story with the students. At this intermediate and transitional level, they're able to use what they've read and answer critical questions to show you that they are comprehending. So students will improve comprehension by identifying the relationship between the questions and the answer. So I provide you a question, here's the answer. Are their answers like their other friends? Are they way off? This is a good tool for you to use in assessing the students to make sure that they're on task. So an example for nonfiction, simple question, if they're reading a book about bugs, where do earthworms live? You could think, where do earthworms live? And the answer, in the ground. Okay? And you could say, that's awesome, that's great. You could take it a step further and say, can you find me the page that it says that the earthworms live in the ground? So again, building on the questions and taking it to that next higher level thinking arena for the children. A fiction could be, what had Matt been doing that day? A story about a little boy, and they say Matt was sledding. And you can say, who else was Matt with? You've already read the story. You know Matt was with somebody else. One of the students, or all of them say, I don't know. That's a cue for you to go back. Teaching tool. Go back to that part of the story. Read it together. Pair read it. You model read it. Whisper read it. Whatever it may be. But that's a cue that you need to go back and read with the children and use as a teaching point. With the same story, you could take it even further. You could say, think about the story elements, your main characters, the problem of the story, the setting of the story, how was the problem solved? Where does the story take place? And the answer, in the winter. Okay? How do you know that? Again, take it a step further and see if they can dig deeper. I encourage them to use their book, use the tool, and dig back and show you exactly how do they know that it is in the winter? How do you know it's in the winter? Somebody brings up, well, they talked about Christmas and snow. Excellent. That's a great hint that the story does take place in the winter. And another question, why do you think Matt is so tired? Now, this is an analyzing question for the students. These are higher level. Another teaching point that you could use in your small group. How do you know he's tired? I don't know. Let's go back together, or let's go back one-on-one. If your part of your group knows, let them continue reading. If one of the students does not know, use him, bring him next to you, and read with it and use it as a teaching tool. At this stage, you also can incorporate graphic organizers, and I've seen graphic organizers in kindergarten. You can use it in science. Graphic organizers are a great tool, and they should definitely be used in your reading program, especially in balanced literacy. So one could be used is to compare and contrast. Use a Venn diagram. If you're doing a fiction story or even a nonfiction, you could compare and contrast George Washington, because it's a nonfiction story about George Washington. Freeze and use a Venn diagram. Compare George Washington with President Barack Obama. And even if you're just talking with the children, you don't necessarily have to have a piece of paper that has 2 circles on it. You could quickly draw it and do it together, whole group or small group. I know my kindergartners in different classes know how to draw their own Venn diagrams. So if you are giving them the opportunity to see these graphic organizers and use them, they're better for it. Another graphic organizer is what I spoke of before, is using those story elements, the main character. Who are the main character? And this, at this point, dependent upon your reader and your class and the style of what works for you and what works for your class, is you could easily have them draw. Who's the main character? Draw one of the main characters. If they don't know how to write yet, or if you don't want them to do that, you could have them draw it. Your higher level, your older kids, they can draw and write. For your older kids who write well, your higher level, have them write a full sentence. Who is your main character? The setting. Where is the setting? Give details. Don't just say outside. Have the reader teach them to go deeper at this comprehension level. Problem. What is the main problem in the story? And solution. How was the problem solved? Those are things that you should always be speaking of when you're reading at this level for the children to pull out. And when you're modeling your read-alouds as well. Another graphic organizer that helps students with their comprehension is a sequence chart. So what happened first, then next, and last. Very simple. Or you could go even more simply, beginning, middle, and end. And this graphic organizer really helps to guide the students into choosing the main ideas and main points in a story. The 3 Little Pigs, for example, the fact that the 3 Little Pigs talk to the guy who sold the straw. Yes, that is true, but what is the main point of that? That the pigs bought straw, bricks, and sticks. That's what you want them to pull out, not those teeny tiny little details that could get us confused or could get us lost and make the story a lot more specific than it needs to be. We want them to pull out those main ideas. And so starting with the beginning, what happened in the beginning, what happened in the middle, and the end, and then moving on to first, last, then, and next. So in your comprehension stage here at the end, you want to make sure that you're making connections and asking questions with the students. Just have a discussion with them. Talk with them. Even if you're at with a level A reader and you're talking about the toy, I put my baby in the toy box. I put my doll in the toy box. I put my truck in the toy box. Talk to them about it. What's their favorite page? Why is it their favorite page? Do they have a toy box at home? Get them interested in what they're reading and let them know that you're interested in them reading as well. You want to hear them read and you want to know about what their interests are. They can, at this stage, you want to have them make inferences and predictions and conclusions and generalizations. Teach them to be a good reader. You're visualizing, clarifying, synthesizing, and definitely monitoring their comprehension. All right. And one last comprehension strategy is reading is thinking. You can have maybe an anchor chart in your classroom that reminds students, or just talk with them in a small group when you're with the guided reading group or you're with your remediation group. Summarize. Have them summarize, or you summarize the story for them, and then they reread it, and then they summarize it for you using the beginning, middle, and end, using the main characters, setting, problem, and goal of this story. You want to ask questions that's related to the text. Keep their interest. If we're talking about pizza, and you don't want a student to get off on a tangent about one time they went to Why Not Pizza, and this and this and this happened. Keep the questions geared on what they're reading. So you can tell me that at recess. Connect. Use what I know to better understand what I'm reading. That could be true with their letter sounds and their blends and their vowel sounds in the very early stages. Use what you know. If you're stuck on this word, well, let's chunk it. Do you see a vowel in there? Let's hear that vowel sound. Do you see blends? Do you see consonant best friends, an SH, a TH that are best friends and make a whole different sound? Chunk that word. Use what you know. Encourage the students to use what they know in their head and remember, because a lot of times they just can't remember the tricks and the tools that maybe the teacher has provided for them, so you can encourage them to use what they already know. Visualize, use picture cues, definitely, and even with the graphic organizers, those are visually pleasing for students because they can separate the information into different quadrants. And we talked about predicting, use clues to infer what may happen next. Those are just a few ways that we can help students in remediation and the guided reading, and I hope that this was helpful. And I'm just going to add this in. This is my pseudo recording. My real recording that I did with my professional development was destroyed when my computer was destroyed. So I hope this suffices all of the necessary requirements. Thank you.